Hello and welcome to Political Adda. I am Manasi Phadke, Deputy Editor with ThePrint, and joining me for this episode today is my colleague from Chennai, Prabhakar Tamilarasu, and Professor Ramu Manivannan, actually former professor and head of the Politics and Civics Department at Madras University, but we all like to refer to him as Professor Ramu Manivannan still, and because of the kind of expertise that he brings to Tamil Nadu politics. Now, with elections to Tamil Nadu scheduled next year, politics in that state has really heated up. And the most burning issue right now is how Tamil Nadu Chief Minister MK Stalin has raised the pitch on the state's opposition to a three-language policy and to any attempts by the center at delimitation. There was an all-party meeting that he had called today. Before I come to you, sir, Prabhakar, if you could just quickly recap what happened at the all-party meeting this morning.
So today the all-party meeting started around 10:30, and barring BJP, its allies, and the non-Tamil Katchi, all the other parties, including the prime opposition party AIDMK, participated in the meeting. Like all were of supporting the cause. In fact, AIDMK came forward and they suggested two corrections to the resolutions that were prepared to be passed in the meeting, and they suggested that. The percentage of representation, that is 7.2 percentage of representation, that shouldn't be reduced. And ADMK wanted that to add in the resolution, and Tamil Nadu Chief Minister, in fact, wanted to make the correction in the resolution, and he also ensured that correction is reflected in the past, like that correction is reflected in the resolution. So let it be PMK, ADMK, or VC, of course, DMK's allies, they are always in the same page as that of DMK. But even the opposition, they were also supporting the same cause, and they said they wouldn't let the guards down.
Right. And so, what do you make of this? Stalin actually convening an all-party meeting like that in a way to consolidate support on this issue under his leadership, and parties also responding to it. What is Stalin's attempt here, and how do you think are the other parties, especially those that fall in the opposition fold, are looking at it?
Yeah, thank you, Mansi. I think whether this issue has been raised now or later, these are some of the permanent concerns of the state of Tamil Nadu or even the other southern states, for instance, whether it's Karnataka or Andhra Pradesh or Kerala and Telangana. So this is an interest that all political parties will come together and rally. And this meeting has also signified this morning the same thing. Then another question about whether this is a burning issue or not, but it is a very important issue for the state. It cannot be put in the back burner. This is the second point. And another important question is that, you mentioned this is the election coming in the 2026. Therefore, this question has been coming to the fore. I think whether the election is in 2026 or not, but the fact is that, a week ago, the Union Education Minister has raised this question on the three-language and the NEP, National Education Policy. I think that has kind of the generated the debate, not only the three-language policy and then the national education policy, and subsequently following these two issues is the delimitation one.
Does
I think one followed the other. Yeah, please.
Yeah. And what is really Stalin's political agenda from all of this? Is he looking to establish him? Is he looking to build momentum towards this cause under his leadership, and also trying to get all other southern states to join? So in a way, he is kind of acting as the interlocutor, of support among all southern states on this particular issue. So what do his political ambitions here seem like?
Yeah, when you say that, whether what are his political consolidation is that the first thing is that he has to stand for the state as the leader of the party and as the chief minister of Tamil Nadu, and it's the first and foremost challenge for him, and he has to do that. And secondly, the rallying the rest of the political parties, be it in the opposition or the allies, is the second most important thing for any leader of the state, and because it represents the state interest too. And that's one of the reasons you find that the recommendations given by the AADMK has been well taken by the DMK. They did not say. I think the AADMK's recommendation has been very well taken by the ruling party, and the meeting as well as it's been included in the resolution as well. So this reflects in a way that it is a collective interest of the state. The third aspect that I want to mention is that whether Stalin wants to be an interlocutor or to rally the other southern states, is there any agenda about it? Even if you go back to the history, then see, in the 1950s and 60s, Tamil Nadu was one of the first states to raise this question on the language policy. And right in the what you call as the drafting pages of the constitution as well. But I want also to add the other states, they were reluctant to add. Not that they did not want to raise this language question at all. There's always an element of reluctance on their part. In the drafting stage of the constitution, and the states from West Bengal, and the other states, people from other parts of the South also raised this question. Then today you see the language question, language debate in Karnataka, it's completely different from what it was in the 1960s and 70s. So, in Kerala too, you have the language issues. It's a kind of a very subtle and very deep and profound about the language consciousness has come. So these are issues which are changing in India. I would say that, the awareness of the language rights today is far more stronger in the South than in the 1950s and 60s. So you're completely seeing a different picture in politics. And another aspect about the delimitation also, none of the southern states would like to see themselves in a situation where we are electorally become irrelevant,
Right.
politically and electorally becoming irrelevant. I mean, this observation of Stalin saying that few days back that the electoral irrelevance is stats before the state. It's a very, very strong statement, but not only strong in terms of reality, but also you completely become irrelevant. And when I had to add another point to this, because we are going through a political situation, the transition in this country, where you are beginning to talk about one religion, one nation, one language, and one region can completely determine the politics then. Actually, there are very reasons. So Tamil Nadu does not have to completely lead. It's not like Tamil Nadu is aspiring for a leadership among the southern states, but certainly Tamil Nadu has always been on the forefront in articulating the rights of the states, and Tamil Nadu falls right in the middle of this debate.
Prabhakar, I would like to hear from you also on this, but before that, I just one quick, corollary to that. You mentioned that the awareness on language issues in almost all the southern states now is much higher than it was, say, even in the 1950s. Why is that so? Is that because the perceived threat is also higher?
No, there's another. There are two reasons. One is that, when we reorganization of the states on the basis of the language itself is very affirmative aspect, about recognition to the language, then articulation. This none of the states would like to see, or the people would like to see another language kind of overrunning them, and whether in the daily life or in the public and the political life. So this is a very important thing. And then an understanding of your right also, after India being independent, in the sense in the post-independent period, is that the states have come to the fore to talk about their rights, their issues, and then the long pending unattended concerns have all come to the fore. And this not only in the south but also in the northern states. And when we are talking about this delimitation, or even the northern states about the language also, and where Stalin and other leaders have also mentioned that in Hindi as a language have also kind of subsumed many languages in the north, in terms in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, and Rajasthan is the best example. Rajasthan is the best example where, completely it is people, when they attribute it's only Hindi, but what about the other languages that have been spoken for centuries in Rajasthan? So these issues, like Tamil Nadu, and they always say in the rights movements and right articulation of rights, when you are able to speak for your rights, you're unconsciously claiming the restoring the rights of many people who are not able to speak for themselves.
All right, Prabhakar, how do you have covered the government and DMK, IDMK, every party in Tamil Nadu very closely. Um, how do you read the politics here?
So basically, these political parties, they have two basic principles. So ever since the Dravidar Kalaham and then the first Dravid Munneta Kalaham and later ADMK and other Dravidian parties, let it be Vaikos, MDMK, they have two core principles. There may be choice of both the words, but the two core principles is two language policy and social justice. Social justice is nothing but kind of like, to put it very simple, it is inclusive by having representation to all kind of all people from all walks of life. Basically, preserving the reservation. So these are the core two things that every party tend to follow in Tamil Nadu. Basically, state parties.
Hmm.
So it is what the tradition of these Dravidian parties that they follow, and they cannot let go of these two things because that is their soul of their party. So that is one of the main reasons why all the parties have come together against the three language policy and against the state rights, like the delimitation issue.
Yeah, but another reason, state like Tamil Nadu, very strongly expressing its position about the two language or three language issues, that, it has come into notice that, even the three language policy in the northern states, I mean,
Hmm.
it is either two or even one language that is actually working in these states. And so three language has not, you tell me how successfully three language is working, is being functioning in states like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, or Rajasthan, any other state, for instance. Another concern is that, not only the democratic spirit, but there has to be a universal spirit in about, taking the third language question, which is a very serious contest by the southern states, particularly in Tamil Nadu, is that, when the students or the colleges and the schools, and particularly the schools, offer third language as an option, the northern states mostly about a Hindi and Sanskrit, and you don't see children going to take third language from the eastern provinces or from the southern provinces. So it is still kind of located right in the same place. It doesn't universalize, it doesn't even national bring the broader spectrum of the national questions, like national languages. So this is a concern for us, whether it's a three language is actually working in the northern states, or when you're talking about the two languages, here, when we say two languages, Tamil Nadu has never said don't read Hindi or don't study Hindi. You have, for every town has Hindi Prachar Sabha, and
Yeah.
that's what even the government is asking, how many states and or how many northern states or in the north have Dravida Bhasha Prachar Sabha is there, any language Prachar Sabha is there. I'm not saying we are not just saying like one to one countering strategy, but about whether how good this three language policy is working. Then, how this two language policy with a very open mind towards Hindi or other
Hmm.
languages also existing. So, why disturb this equation?
Understood. In fact, Prabhakar had done a story for us on the Hindi Prachar Sabhas and how the number of enrollments in the Hindi Prachar Sabhas in Tamil Nadu, in Chennai particularly, have swelled. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so if we have I have data in hand. So if you look at the data, so it shows that Tamil Nadu is not against Hindi. So they are against the three language policy in academic schools. Those who want to learn Hindi voluntarily, they can always go ahead and learn Hindi Prachar Sabhas, and the numbers have been in up for since 2019. That is the data that we have in hand right now. So in 2009, if you look at the data, there were about 2.18 lakh people who studied Hindi in this Hindi Prachar Sabhas, and it went up to like about 7.7 lakhs in 2017. And after COVID, there was a slow slump, and at any given point of time, at least 3 lakh people or 3.5 lakh people were learning Hindi in Tamil Nadu voluntarily. And there was no stopping of it, and like nobody stopped it, nobody like harassed anybody for learning Hindi.
All right. And let's also talk about the NTK here, because one thing, Prabhakar, that you mentioned was that every Tamil Nadu based party believes in this agenda or is a flag bearer of this agenda about ensuring that the state's representation at the center doesn't reduce, or the significance of the Tamil language and the opposition to the three language policy. But you also saw that NTK, which is a state party, boycotted today's meeting. And NTK has, I mean, in the past also they've said that I mean, this nuanced difference between Dravidianism and Tamil nationalism. So why did I mean, how does NTK then justify boycotting a meeting which all other state parties are attending for an agenda that it endorses? And what is this fine difference between Dravidianism and Tamil nationalism? And is that distance sort of blurring now in the political prism, or is it still distinct?
Very
Sir, and
distinct.
both of you should talk a little bit on this.
Sure. And the first thing is about, like, the Tamil nationalism that you hear from parties like NTK, Nam Tamilar Katchi, led by Seeman, is
Hmm.
completely different, actually. Different in a sense is that it is a one-man party, and, like, a very fascist in its political articulation, highly self-centric, egoistic, and I call that as a very something trends that you see in countries that we witnessed in 1930s in Italy and other countries, Germany, very, very dictatorial, fascist, and individualist postures. So therefore, I don't call that even as a Tamil. It's a kind of a fascist orientation. And Tamil nationalism, on the other hand, has certain cultural, historical resonance of literary and cultural and political articulation. Like, it's very natural all over the world, where culture and then, like, history orients to certain acquiring power in politics, actually. So that's a kind of a cultural nationalism, where the original Tamil nationalism rests on cultural nationalism, which I don't think that Seeman or anyone represent that today context. And Seeman, or the NTK, is simply a kind of a fascist survivor of politics in the current environment. And then how Dravidian politics or Dravidian question arises is that this is is colonial to post-colonial history. Is that, like, this is a kind of a dialogue, a discourse that draws with the other regions in the country, for to be very specific, with the Aryan and Dravidian historical, cultural, anthropological traces that go in. And then this also is a race is a very, very important factor, the Dravidian race and Dravidian identity. And then in this Dravidian race and Dravidian identity, the culture, language that it predominantly identified is Tamil, and then which also recognizes, acknowledges the other languages in the spoken in the south, which are part or seen as the Dravidian languages. So in politics is that after the independence and subsequently the reorganization of the states, so Dravidian identity has predominantly influenced the coming together of the resistance against the Congress in the from 1930s onwards right up to the 1967, when Dravidian political party came to the power and by DMK as the first party. So this is the historical background. And today that you find about, like, even in the Dravidian identity politics is that the Tamil nationalism has always been a kind of a very inner stream that flowing through, because that cultural nationalism is also part of the Dravidian identity politics. So where it kind of, like, comes together, where it draws out clearly is that it doesn't come into the fore that you see as Tamil nationalisms being interpreted as what you call a separatist and as, like, very fascist. And that kind of orientation doesn't exist with the Dravidian identity politics. This is where I would like to see the difference. And then coming to another question about why NTK has not come to this meeting is that, like, NTK is under tremendous attack. And, like, because is completely the party as well as the leader has come under a massive attack from the general public, leave alone from the other political parties. he has gone into a certain kind of a subtle political alliance with the BJP in the last couple of months. Then he chose to kind of attack and then and undermine the legacy of Periyar. And in the process is that NTK has lost considerable public. Whatever that the small holdings they had, their people have kind of rallied and completely kind of resisted against the politics that he was bringing in. And along with that, his personal image, and then any kind of a public face, he has considerably ground, he has lost. Therefore, I see that it's a kind of a very lull period in his own personal career and his political situation is that he doesn't see that to coming to this all party meeting, and there is a pattern to that thing. There is a pattern to not attending is that BJP is not coming, and BJP is another ally led by Vasan, Tamil Manila Kachi, that he has not sent his representatives, and NTK. So the pattern is very clear that where that when you say Tamil nationalism, my question is that the kind of Tamil nationalism that Seeman represents and how it gets co-opted, how it becomes an ally for the BJP it's a paradox. In paradox in terms of political, but in paradox in terms of common sense, but it's not a paradox in political opportunism.
So last couple of questions. One is that the BJP was among the major parties that did not attend today's meeting, and generally the ire seems aimed at the center in all of this, in this entire issue. And although this is a long-standing issue and it is perhaps not a political one for the state, but it can't be ignored that it is in the run-up to an election year. Next year is an election year. So how is the BJP? What is the BJP really communicating to voters at this point, or how does this reflect politically on the BJP? What are its options here?
I think the BJP has fallen short of the expectations of a party with a state unit in Tamil Nadu. Should have gone and attended the meeting and explained its position in the meeting. Actually, that makes more sense actually. But instead, the party chose to play this is what happens with the national parties. Congress used to be like this in the 1950s and 60s. Now it's totally quite different the way it conducts itself about the issues across the country, actually. And the BJP is in the same mode, and it is very Delhi centric. And it's the leadership should have, in fact, taken away of even articulating Delhi's position right in Chennai's meeting today. It would have made world of difference. Instead, just believing that whatever is Amit Shah has said, or Prime Minister Modi has expressed, and that stands valid. It's kind of not listening to the ground. This attitude of not placing yourself in the soil really kind of distances BJP at this particular situation. And certainly this issue is going to roll into the election. I mean, we are not talking about politicking, but I can assure you that the language policy that has been articulated, what been picked up by Dharmendra Pradhan has certainly generated. I mean, it just disturbed the nest and at the wrong time. And subsequently, the delimitation issue, this both are going to roll into the next 2026 election. They have given the handle to the DMK.
So, do you think that it is the BJP gave the handle to DMK, or DMK is taking up these two issues as its 2026 agenda? Because if you look at how DMK played in the previous elections, so the two parliament elections 2019 and 2024, and one assembly election 2021, so they played it with BJP's Hindutva politics. So they cannot go the same agenda for 2026 assembly election as well. So do you think they have picked up these two as their agenda for 2026 instead of BJP giving it into their hands? They took it in their hands to make it as an agenda for 2026.
Yeah, I think that language one, particularly linking it with the national education policy and making a statement that unless you accept the three language, we are not going to release the fund, has certainly provoked the state, and has also provoked the government. I mean, that's not the way the Union Home Minister for Education speaks to the constituents or the state units. That unless you accept the NEP, and NEP, which is very inclusive of which is very binding thing about the language question, particularly the three language in South, particularly in Tamil Nadu. Contrary to all that, the information that the BJP is saying, we are not mentioning Hindi, but we understand three language means Hindi is the third language, and it is a very, very simple understanding. So there they just playing this blind, saying that no, we are not talking about Hindi, we are talking about Telugu, we are talking about Kannada and Malayalam. I don't think that this is a very honest conversation. We need transparency in conversing issues like this, and then getting that this one issue certainly has kind of gone against the BJP, the way the Union Home Minister for Education has articulated the position, and subsequently the delimitation. You can say that that was picked up by Stalin himself, but the point is that this question is a very important concern. That now and then it's coming to the fore, but it has not drawn the attention like the manner. But because we are talking about the language politics, then the language issue is also very much connected. When we are talking about language as the Hindi belt, and then north centric the politics, and subsequently this delimitation also adds a kind of more interest to this whole debate actually.
Right. And so we've also been seeing that there have been indications by some leaders within the IDMK that they may be willing to explore some sort of an understanding with the BJP, in one way or the other. Minor indications that have been coming out from different camps of the ADMK. If this is the issue that defines the state elections next year, how do you see the ADMK BJP relation sort of playing out?
See, I think now in the last 10 years or so, ideology has taken a much more stronger ground in politics. And this is one of the reasons why DMK has come back to be in a strong position like this, because it is seen as a challenger or a contestant to the BJP's dominant ideology of Hindutva. And so this whole discourse on politics is an ideological ground. I don't see that DMK and BJP having an electoral understanding. And on the other hand, BJP wants to at least get to the position of an opposition where it wants to be recognized as the number one opposition party. That is one of the reasons why BJP has been so consistent in dismantling the All India Anna DMK. As an ally, as a friend, and then subsequently, who have been following politics in Tamil Nadu, very closely. One of the pivotal aspects about, breaking down the ADMK, it is the BJP that's been behind more than the DMK. DMK has not done anything to break the ADMK party. On the other hand, BJP has been demanding an alliance. And you can't insist with another person. It's a forced alliance, but they refused. They refused on the ground, not because of the seat sharing, but on a principle of ideological reasons. I think that, the ADMK also feels threatened, but they may go as an ally under certain changed circumstances. But I don't see any reason where DMK can become an ally at this juncture, because in history there are instances where DMK has joined as an ally in the early 2000s and then been part of the government, and that's history. And I see now today it's totally a different reality.
All right, we'll end on that note. Thank you so much for giving us your time today and for this interesting discussion. And thanks a lot, Prabhakar, for joining as well. To our viewers, thank you for watching. Do come back again next week for another episode of Political Adda.